Most career changers trying to get into cloud and AWS are approaching it completely backwards. They think the hard part is actually learning AWS. It is not. The hard part is becoming someone a company can actually trust in a cloud role. And that's a little bit of a different problem because right now there are literally thousands of people watching AWS videos, right? Watching my main channel, Tech with Sulaiman, buying Udemy courses, getting certifications, building the same tutorial projects. And guess what? They are still not getting hired. One of my students inside of my Cloud Engineer Academy literally told me yesterday that he's applied for over 200 roles and he couldn't get a single response. So he joined my academy to learn about positioning and all that kind of stuff. He actually joined a different cloud tech bootcamp. But anyway, that didn't work. So these people that are not getting hired, they're not stupid, they're not lazy. And it's not because the cloud and breaking into cloud and AWS is impossible. It's because they are treating the career change into cloud and AWS like an information problem. They think that if they collect enough information, eventually they'll feel ready to get hired. But getting hired into cloud isn't about how much information or videos that you've consumed. It's about whether you can prove that you can solve any sort of cloud problems. And that's the part that a lot of career changers just miss. And it matters more than ever in 2026 because the market has changed a lot, right? AI is moving fast, companies are rebuilding their infrastructure, and cloud is becoming the layer underneath AI, security, DevOps, platform engineering, and basically every single serious technology company. So if you're trying to change careers in tech, cloud is still the best path that you can take, but only if you approach it properly. I'm Sulaiman. I've been in tech for more than 11 years, from IT apprentice to running my own businesses across cloud AI consulting. I've got a software company, studytech.ai, and my Cloud Engineer Academy, and that I'm sure you've seen on my main channel, Tech with Sulaiman. You can type that into Google if you haven't already. Now, in this video, I'm going to give you the best advice that I can give anyone trying to change careers into cloud and AWS. This is not going to be motivational. This is not going to be generic, I'll believe in yourself nonsense, right? This is actual advice, all right? What to learn, what to ignore, how to think about your previous experience, how to stop wasting time, self-studying, how to build proof, how to stop being someone that's just interested in cloud, right? And start becoming someone the market is taking very, very seriously. So the first piece of advice is to stop treating cloud like a subject. Cloud is not school. It isn't a textbook. It isn't something that you passively study until one day someone gives you the permission to become an engineer. Cloud is actually work. It's real infrastructure running real applications, networking, security, deployments, cost, troubleshooting. All of it is tied to a business that needs technology to make money, serve customers, store data, and not fall over every 5 minutes. That's what you're trying to enter. And this is where most career changes go completely wrong. They approach cloud like that I need to learn AWS, right? So they open a course and you start memorizing the service names like EC2, S3, IAM, RDS, CloudWatch, right? All of that is obviously important, right? But if all you do is learn the names of the services, you're going to sound like every other beginner. The better question you have to ask is, what business problem do cloud engineers solve? And what proof do I need to show that I can solve them? That question will change everything and how you think about it. Because now you're not just memorizing EC2, you're understanding how compute supports an application. S3 stops being a place to put files in and becomes how a company stores and serves data at scale. IAM is no longer a list of permissions, it's how access and trust actually works inside of an environment. And VPC turns into the thing that decides how traffic moves safely between systems. That's a big shift. Beginners learn services, but engineers understand systems. So if you're changing careers, that shift has to happen as early as possible. The second piece of advice is to stop acting like your previous career was a waste. A lot of career changes do this. They come from accounting, healthcare, sales, logistics, retail operations, truck driving, teaching, whatever. And they think that I'm starting from zero. The truth is, you're not. You might be starting from zero in AWS, but you're not starting from zero as a professional. And that's a big difference because if you've worked with customers, handled pressure, managed process, run operations, documented things properly, solve real business problems, or had to explain something technical to someone non-technical, all of that still matters. None of that disappears because you just switch fields, right? It transfers. Cloud engineering isn't just sitting in a dark room pressing AWS buttons. You have to talk to developers, security teams, managers, customers, recruiters, Hiring managers, you have to explain what you built and why it matters. Now, for a lot of career changes, your previous experience can actually become an advantage if you know how to position yourself properly. The problem is that most people either hide it or explain it badly. They say something like, I used to work in finance, but now I want cloud. That sounds very, very random, right? A better way to frame it is, I came from finance, so I understand process, accuracy, risk, controls, reporting, and business impact. Now I'm building cloud skills so I can work on infrastructure that supports real business systems. That sounds completely different. If you come from healthcare, I understand diagnostic thinking, documentation, compliance, patient data, and run in high pressure environments. Now I'm applying that problem solving mindset to cloud infrastructure, right? You get the idea. Your past isn't irrelevant. It just needs to be translated. That's what I call positioning. And positioning matters because hiring managers don't hire for skills. They actually hire the story that they can understand. The third piece of advice is to don't try to learn everything before you start. Now, this is one of the biggest traps that I see. People say that I need to learn networking first, then Linux, then Python, then AWS, and Terraform. The list goes on. And then maybe after I've done all of that, I'll start building a project. That sounds like it's kind of responsible, but most of the time it's just fear dressed up as preparation because there's always something else to learn. AWS has hundreds of services. There's Linux, there's networking, there's Kubernetes, there's DevOps. Every one of them goes as deep as you're willing to dig. And if your plan is to feel fully ready before you build anything, you'll be waiting forever. Now, the better way to learn is to learn enough to start, then build, and then let the project actually expose what you don't understand. That's how engineers actually learn. You don't learn cloud by passively preparing for 6 months. You learn it by building systems, breaking them, fixing them, and understanding why they actually broke. So yes, learn the fundamentals, how the internet works, basic networking, Linux, permissions, VPCs, the core AWS services, but don't live in the theory, right? The moment that you understand enough to build something, then you need to start building because building actually shows you the truth. A video will make you feel like you understand networking, but a broken VPC will show you whether you can actually do the work. A tutorial will make you feel like IAM is simple. A permission error shows you whether you really understand trust. A course will explain Terraform, but a failed deployment will show you whether you can actually understand state, variables, and resources. And that's where learning becomes something real. The fourth piece of advice is about certifications. AWS certifications are useful, and I've said this many times. I even have my own AI certification platform, studytech.ai. They give you structure, they help you learn the language of AWS, they show employers that you've taken the subject seriously. And in a world where AI can generate projects, resumes, technical blogs, a real proctored AWS exam still acts as a trust signal more than ever. But here's the problem. A lot of career changes will turn certs into a hiding place because studying for a cert feels safe. You're doing something, you're making progress, you've got a clear exam date and a badge at the end. There is no recruiter rejecting you here, right? There's no hiring manager questioning your project, no interviewer asking you to explain why you chose EC2 versus Lambda. Nobody's there to expose your gaps when you're doing certs. So you stay there. You do the cloud practitioner, you do solutions architect, you do the sysops, maybe security, maybe another certification after that. And then you still don't have any interviews because you've not done real work. And here is where a lot of people get frustrated. The certification was never supposed to carry the whole career transition. It's only a single piece. Your cert isn't useless. It's just incomplete on its own. You still need to prove that you can build, that your projects hold up, that you can communicate, that your CV connects the dots, and that you can handle an interview. So use certifications correctly, use them to build real knowledge, give yourself the structure, and strengthen your profile. But don't hide behind them. A certification can help you get taken seriously, but it won't automatically make you hireable. The market still needs to see what you can actually do. The fifth piece of advice is to build proof before you beg for the opportunity. This is where career changes need to be brutally honest. If you have no cloud experience, the market is taking a risk on you. That's just the honest truth, right? So your job is to reduce that risk, not with motivational language, not with I'm passionate about cloud, not with I'm a fast learner. Everyone says those things. You reduce the risk with proof. A real AWS project, a documented architecture, a GitHub repo that shows your thinking, a LinkedIn profile that shows your direction, a CV that ties your old experience to cloud value, a walkthrough where you explain what you built, an interview answer that shows you understand trade-offs. That's what reduces risk. So when people ask, how do I get cloud experience before my first cloud job? The answer is that you have to manufacture proof by solving problems that look like a real job. So what you want to do is you want to find job descriptions and look at what companies are actually asking for. Find freelance briefs and look at what businesses are paying people to solve. Then build projects around those problems. So your projects shouldn't show that you followed steps. It should show the decisions that you made. The sixth piece of advice is that your projects needs to become a story. This is where a lot of people lose out because they'll build something decent and they'll explain it and document it completely wrong. They say that I built a project using EC2, S3, and RDS. That means absolutely nothing. What was the problem? Why did you choose those services? What were the requirements? What did you secure? What broke? And what did you do to fix it? What would you improve in production? And what business value does any of this create? That's the story. You need to cover three beats: the build, what you did and why, the troubleshooting, what broke and how you fixed it, and production thinking, what you would do to improve your projects. The seventh piece of advice is to stop waiting until you feel confident. Confidence isn't a starting point. Confidence comes from actions and results. This is huge for career changes because when you're moving into a new field, you're going to feel like an outsider for a while. That is completely normal. You'll look at job descriptions and you think that you don't have enough. You'll see people on LinkedIn and you'll think they're ahead of you. You'll build a project and think that it isn't even good enough. You'll think about applying and suddenly convince yourself that you need another month. That feeling doesn't go away by just thinking about it. It goes away through repetition. Build the project, explain it out loud, record yourself, apply, get ignored, fix a CV, apply again, get an interview, mess up a question, go practice and come back stronger. That's how confidence gets built. You can't think your way into it. You act your way into it. And the longer that you avoid the thing that scares you, the bigger it gets into your head. Interviews feel terrifying when you've never practiced them. Applications feel pointless when you never sent them properly. Posting your works feels like you're exposing yourself when you've never shown anything publicly. But after you have done enough reps, the fear just drops. And that's not because the task has got easier, but because you've got more familiar with it. The eighth piece of advice is to stop comparing your timeline to someone else's. And this one destroys careers. Someone gets hired in 6 weeks, someone else gets hired in 6 months. Someone already has IT experience, someone is coming from retail. Someone has a computer science degree, someone else has never opened a terminal. Someone can study full time, someone else has a job, kids, bills, and 1 hour in the evening. The paths aren't identical, but the system that you have is. You need the right skills, you need the real projects, you need real positioning, you need a stack of applications, you need the ability to interview, and you need feedback to get better. How long that takes depends on your starting point and your execution. So please don't sit there wrecking your confidence because someone else is moving faster than you. Your job isn't to beat their timeline. Your job is to make sure the next 90 days look completely different from the last 90 days. So can you solve problems today that you couldn't do 30 days ago? Can you explain a project that you couldn't explain last month? Is your CV stronger than the one that you had before? And can you answer interview questions better than you used to? That's progress. The ninth piece of advice is if you're changing careers in 2026, think very carefully about where AI is pushing the market. Everyone is talking about AI careers right now. AI engineers, AI architects, prompt engineers, machine learning engineers. But for most career changers, these aren't starting points. You can't start there. Most AI roles aren't truly entry level. They're usually a step from software, data, infrastructure, cloud, or backend experience. And that's exactly why cloud is such a strong path, because AI still needs the infrastructure underneath it. Compute, storage, networking, identity, security, monitoring, login, deployment, cost control, data pipelines, APIs, all of those things cloud engineers are already working on. Companies don't need people who use ChatGPT. That's not AI. They need people who can deploy systems that use AI safely and reliably. That's a very, very different skill set. So if you're a career changer looking at AI and thinking, where do I even start? Don't chase the AI tools. Learn the layer that AI depends on. Cloud, infrastructure, security, deployments, monitoring, systems thinking. That just gives you options. Cloud can lead into DevOps, cloud security, platform engineering, solutions architecture, AI infrastructure, forward deployed engineering, because the titles will always change, right? Forward deployed engineering is the new title, but the foundation carries everything forward. Now, the 10th piece of advice is to stop trying to look ready and start becoming useful. A lot of career changers spend too much time trying to look like the perfect candidate, the perfect CV, the perfect LinkedIn, the perfect cert path, the perfect robot, the perfect timing. But the market doesn't need perfect, right? It needs someone useful. Can you help solve this problem? Can you understand the system? Can you troubleshoot? Can you communicate? Can you be trusted to learn quickly? That's what companies actually care about. So you want to build things. So instead of asking, how do I make myself look like a cloud engineer? You need to ask yourself, what can I actually do that a cloud engineer would do? And then you go do that, right? You build systems, you design solutions, you document it, you secure it, you break it, right? That's really how you become useful. And once you become useful, everything else will change. Your confidence change, your CV changes, your interview change, your whole energy change, because now you're not trying to convince everyone that you're serious. Your work actually proves it. And by the way, if you want my help doing this properly, there's a link in the description below to book a call with my team. We've helped over 900 IT pros, engineers, and career switchers build skills, project CV, LinkedIn, and interview ability to land cloud roles. And the reason that it works is because we don't just give you more content. You probably have enough content. We give you the roadmap, the structure, the projects, the mentorship, the feedback, and support until you are hired. So if you're trying to learn cloud and AWS on your own for a while and you're tired of guessing on what to do next, just book a call with my team and we'll see if we can help you make the switch. Now, let's make this practical. If I was changing your careers into cloud and AWS right now, here's exactly what I would do in the next 90 days. The first 30 days, I would build a foundation, how the internet works, networking, Linux, Git, command line, learn the core AWS services, right? Learn the pieces that show up over and over again. The next 30 days, I'd build, right? One serious project, a real business style build, secure an application, private database, monitoring Terraform, something that actually looks like real cloud work. And every time something breaks, I write it down because I can reference that in my interviews. Then finally, in the next 30 days, I'll package and apply it. Turn the project into a GitHub repo with proper README and architecture, record a walkthrough with Loom, post it on LinkedIn, rewrite your CV, apply to realistic roles, practice explaining projects out loud, do mock interviews, get feedback, and then just repeat. This is the work that you need to do, and most people won't do the work. They never move through the loop. They learn a bit, they stop, they watch, they stop, they buy another course, they stop, they think about applying, and then they stop. The people who get hired actually complete the loop. They learn, they build, they document, they package, they apply, they interview, they get feedback, and they approve. That is the system. Now, here is what I would ignore at the beginning. Ignore Kubernetes, right? You're not ready for that. Ignore trying to learn every AWS service. It's completely impossible and unnecessary. Ignore people arguing online about AWS versus Azure versus GCP. Pick one and build. I recommend AWS because it's the market leader and gives you the most opportunity, but the principles transfer. Ignore advanced AI engineering if you don't understand infrastructure because you can add AI later. Ignore motivational content if it doesn't turn into action, right? And ignore anyone telling you that it's easy. It is not easy, but it's doable. That's a big difference. And the real reason most career changes fail isn't because they picked cloud. It's not the wrong cert. It's not because they're not technical enough. Most people failed because they never turn interest into proof. They stay in the safe zone. They're watching, they're researching, they're comparing, they're taking notes, they're getting ready, waiting for confidence, waiting for the right time, waiting for some magical moment where everything suddenly feels clearer. That moment never comes. Clarity comes from movement. You start, you build, you get stuck, you ask for help, you fix, you apply, you get feedback. That's how the path becomes clear. Not before you move, but after. And that's why the decision matters. There comes a point where you have to decide that I'm not just researching cloud anymore, I am doing this. And when that decision is real, your calendar changes, your evenings, your weekends, your standards, your actions, they all start to shift. And that's when your career starts changing. Not when you find the perfect roadmap, but when your behavior finally matches the outcome that you say you want. Now, look, changing your careers is difficult, especially if you've been in your current field for years and the job that you have pays the bills, especially if people around you don't fully understand what you're trying to do. And part of you is scared that this won't work. That fear is completely normal, but fear isn't a reason to stay still. And if you're not happy with where your career is going, then doing nothing isn't safe either. Another 6 months will pass, another year will pass, the industry will keep moving, AI will keep changing the markets, and cloud will keep becoming more and more important. You'll either be building the skill set or you'll be watching other people do it, like my students with their testimonials. So my advice for career changers getting into cloud and AWS is this: don't try to become perfect, just become useful. Build a foundation, then the proof. Package it properly, get the feedback. Apply before you feel 100% ready. Practice explaining your work and stop treating this like something that you're thinking about doing someday. If you want the role, you need to start acting like someone becoming ready for the role because the market doesn't care how badly you want it. It cares about what you can prove. And once you understand that, everything just gets way, way clearer. As always, I'm rooting for you. If you want my help, check the links below. Go and become undeniable. Peace out.